Welcome to another exciting new episode of Unzip, Reboot and Leave URL podcast. Today we have someone who is very dear friend of mine who actually worked in cybersecurity space for a long time now. He worked in India, US, Singapore, and now finally settled in Australia. So today we will talk about cybersecurity with Soum Maitra. How are you, Soum?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, so today we will talk about cybersecurity. We will talk about cybersecurity from a non-technical point of view so that normal audience can understand. It's a techie thing, but the fear or awareness should be there for anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So from that way, we will start with the podcast with the first question is, can you please explain cybersecurity to a 5-year-old?
Very good question. And as you rightly said, Gautam, cybersecurity is a technical subject. So it's quite challenging to explain it to a 5-year-old. But I will try. So we'll take the analogy of a house, this place. Okay, so we are the residents of the house. If somebody comes in who is not known or who is uninvited, what the child will think of that person? A thief, a dacoit, a burglar, or something. So the cybersecurity, on a similar way, if the child is playing their games using the TV or mobile or whatever, and there is an unintentional person or an object coming in that space, invading their space, they are not, at that point of time, they are not sure how that happens or who is that person, the other person is coming. It's a foreign object or a foreign person. So they are obviously very scared, and that probably is the easiest way to explain cybersecurity to a child.
Okay, so that means someone who is kind of a stranger in your ecosystem or in your surrounding.
Correct.
Okay.
Someone or something.
Someone or something. Yeah. Okay. So, how cybersecurity got compromised? I'm asking this question because typical answer is, okay, don't download this and that, don't go to any adult site. Very couple of things we normally talk about. But is there any other way you guys look at it or you want to address to the audience?
See, cybersecurity is, while it's a new thing, it's been there about 5-10 years. That's where it has really gained traction. But this has been there in the digital space because this is a pure digital thing, right? It has been there in the digital space for a while, maybe who knows, maybe 30 years. So ever since computers and data and all these things are accessible to people, this threat or this security breach has always been there. It was not known as such, right? So when we talk about, I cannot log into my account because I can see, there is an account in my name that's floating on the internet. So this is an example of somebody has hacked into your account or somebody has copied your account, picked up your credentials and tried to replicate it to fool you or to find out your other personal information so that they can create some fraud. They can pick up some information which they can use for getting your bank details or transacting, maybe moving money from your bank account to another account. So this has been happening, but we never called it typically a cyber issue. Now this whole cyber problem came because obviously this became like an epidemic. Every countries started feeling the pressure. Plus, there were state actors that got involved. This kind of became like I don't want to have a physical, it costs more for me to do a physical war with country X. But if I can take hold of their, essential security, essential infrastructure, right, I can cripple them. And that has happened in few countries, you would know. I don't want to name, and there are obviously few state actors who are responsible for doing this again and again. Now, is it easy to cover these, or is it easy to tackle these? It's yes and no. The amount of resources, the amount of work, the amount of research that needs to go into these is enormous. Because remember, because it's a very technical thing, somebody who can get into a government network means that person or that group is obviously very smart. They know how to navigate through the myriad of network level securities, so on and so forth. So it's not that easy, obviously. Or somebody from, let's say, the eastern part of the world or southern part of the world can crack into a highly defensive, American treasury system. It's not that easy, but they can do. So that way, cybersecurity has been and will always be there.
Right. I will talk about that enterprise side or the business side of things a bit later. First, I'm trying to address the individual side of things. Yeah. If we have a social media account, which we all have predominantly, is already we are exposed to this threat, or we can't do much?
Again, there is no binary answer for this, right? There is no yes or no. It's social media has become part of our lives since the last 10, 15 years, right? And it will grow exponentially. So everything what we see today, we don't know what's going to happen in the next 15 or 20 years, but social media is going to stay, right? There could be different forms or formats of social media. So when you say, how can we address this? I will take that later, but in terms of why social media is so important and why cybersecurity is so important in social media, and we have seen things happening, like people, there are phishing, there are spoofing, there are doxing, and different types of mechanisms, different variants of the same mechanism that's floating around. And we as individuals, we are governed by our lust, greed, hard mentality.
Or fear, maybe sometimes.
Fear. So we keep on doing the same mistakes again and again. And this will continue. So the best way for social media, we have to be in social media, and the best way to manage this is to manage our exposure, the way we handle cyber threats in the social media. That's the best way we can do.
Right. So social media is one area where, a little bit of our information is kind of exposed. Okay. Now, like more we are going into like 2025, 2026, more digital imprint will happen for every individual. Yeah. Like for every ticket maybe, or every like a medicine maybe, and social media, we can understand that we can control ourselves, but what about other places where we have no control and we cannot tweak it? We have to give our information, and so that means those information is not in our control or hand, it's to the organization.
That becomes more an enterprise problem, which we should tackle later.
Okay.
But even social media is also enterprise, right? So when I open up an account in Meta or Facebook or Twitter, I have to open it based on my name, my birth date, my whatever. So my personal information is there with them.
Or as a business also, you have to put certain information as a business to register there. Yes.
Of course. And we as individuals, because we are just one person, right? We as individuals have an innate trust in those organizations. So I wouldn't never think Facebook to give up my information to a third party or sell it in the dark web. Okay. I'm not saying that happens, but that's my trust with that company. And why? Because you might have told me, oh, Facebook is a great company. Why don't you? Because we can chat through Facebook, or we can do something, and I can have my school friends, connecting through Facebook, or whatever. So that trust is already there. But what has happened is when Facebook or Twitter or all these companies, Insta or Snapchat, these came into being, they had certain security controls in place. But that doesn't mean that they thought about cyber as their primary business. That's not their primary business. Their objective was to get as much consumers, as much people in their social network as possible. So, but there are people obviously who found that there are ways to go through and use it for malicious intent. That's where those breaches started coming in. That's where the data that I have put in or is with Facebook somehow got leaked out and was used by other companies. I mean, a good example is in a 2016, the Trump presidency, right? When Biden, there was a huge leakage of data from Facebook into Cambridge Analytics, and that was used in a different way. What happened after that is different, but that happened in companies like this.
I mean, in that elite level also it happened.
It happened.
Yeah.
Because you really can't expect, or you really can't forecast, if that's the right word to use, the kind of damages or the kind of threats that can come in. You can only assess certain things. That's why we have in bigger organizations something is called threat assessment and risk assessment in the cyberspace. But then you can't, because everybody is smart in this space, right? They keep on thinking of better and more matured and more agile things, how they can damage you, how I can get this information, right? A simple example is, we tell everybody that, okay, let me take a step back. 20 years back, your name, your password, that would have been the cornerstone of a security, right? Your password could have been 1234556 or the QWERTY or AAAA, right? People in large companies, the developers, they used to have one single account, one single password, and 10 of them are working in the same database application, whatever, right? But that's no longer the case today, because we have seen many and many examples that these have been invaded, these have been breached, people have used it in a wrong way. So what happens today, you won't get a system where you use one account name and 4-letter password, right? Even if you do that, a single mobile computer, mobile phone is able to brute force your password in a matter of seconds. So that's not going to happen. So what we are doing now, we are telling people you should have a combination of alphabets and strings and alphanumeric characters and hash and question mark and all those. It should be at least 10 characters, whatever.
Yes, I mean, like lengthwise or 1 2 3 4 5 or hash and this thing and that thing. My layman understanding is, at the end of the day, it's just key, right? Or like a digital space interprets this different way.
It's not that simple. So what you see is just a password. So if I take a 4-letter password, let's say I tell you can have a combination of 4 letters, just letters, alphabets, among the alphabet space. So there are 26 characters, right? So that total number of combinations is 26 raised to the power 4, which is like 4,056, 456, 976 total combinations.
Okay.
Mobile today, any of these mobiles, they can have internal softwares which can crack this in a matter of seconds, right? But if I start providing multiple combinations, this whole the computational power to crack it using brute force suddenly goes up exponentially.
Right.
So if you use a 10-letter with strings with alphanumeric characters plus hashtags and all that, see the number space and the alphabet space increases. Put it at 100, it becomes exponentially large. So, for example,
So one simple trick is make your passwords longer.
make your passwords longer with a complex combination of characters, numbers, and different types of like your hashtags and exclamation marks,
Okay.
special characters.
Okay.
So you have to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, so most of the big organizations have a password policy today.
Yes.
Right? Even if you try to log into Google, Google will not allow you to have a password which is like that.
Yeah, it's like
ABCDFG.
minimum 8 characters. You have to
Yeah.
have like
Yeah.
numbers and then special characters,
Exactly.
etc. Yes.
But that's just one part of the coin, right? Today, even for people like us who are in social media and who are not really into big organizations, and I'm talking about small and medium business here, we're not in big organizations, we would prefer smaller password which we can remember, right? And we would use the same password in 10 of our accounts, yeah? And that is not a good thing to do. Yeah, because there's something called, again, a social engineering trick, which is called doxing. So I somehow trick you and get your username and an account name and password. And I'll keep on, and I'll find out how many similar account names you have or similar applications where you use the same account. And I'll use the same password. I'll keep on doing that. And if you use the same one, essentially you are vulnerable to everything. So I can use your bank account, I can use your ATO, I can use your Victoria license, Vic Roads, whatever, and you're done for, right?
As we are speaking about the passwords, in the organization when I was working 10 years back, every 1 month we had to change the password.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before that, like these passwords things didn't sink in, so we used to do one time ABCD, next time 1 2 3 4, whatever.
Yeah.
But when every month or 6 weeks we have to change it, then I kind of created this pattern that okay, my name, then start 1 2 3 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now in one space it's going 1 2 3 4. In another space it's going one, maybe going on for ages with one.
Yeah.
In some cases. Okay. How is that strategy? Because at the end of the day, you have to bloody remember that.
See, big organizations is different than small organizations,
Yes.
right? Obviously,
Or individual level also.
individual level is a bit tricky because you have to remember everything, and obviously I wouldn't. So as I said, if you have 10 accounts, right? I have got in my bank, and I've got my Meta, I've got Snapchat, I've got ATO, and if as an individual I need to remember accounts and passwords in everything, the best way I will do is write it down. But we won't recommend that, right? Because if somebody else gets hold of that information, you're done for.
Yeah.
Right. So, but we don't have a shortcut. So you will have to remember it, or you will have to trust someone who will remember it for you. For example,
I mean, the another problem what I used to face or still face, which is, let's say, going to a movie, it's getting lesser and lesser the paper one. Like everything is happening through app.
yeah,
Now app means you have to register. Register means you have to have another password.
correct.
Who can remember those things?
See, the way I do it is
Yeah, or rather tell something, some strategic, like a best practice.
Yeah. So as I said, I mean, if you start trying to remember 100 passwords for 100 different logins, it's just not possible.
No.
For a normal
Humanly
human
not
being.
possible.
Yeah. So what I do generally, and this has worked for me so far, but that doesn't mean that it will work for
Other
somebody
people,
else, is I always use something that is I can remember, or it is related to me in my childhood, or something
in your
which
life
is
somewhere
it is
it's
registered
related.
or hacked into my brain, right? Something, and have variants of those. So if I say, for example, my house name where I grew up, the name of the house, I will probably use it in different combinations with street address, my birth date, or my first dog's birth date, something like that. So it's not possible for someone who doesn't have enough information about me or those detailed information about me to get those combinations in the right sequence and crack in. Yeah. And if I, sometimes it happens I forget, but I'll go and reset the password, change it into a different name. That's the best strategy that I have employed, and it has worked for me.
Okay.
Now, coming back to your question on how organizations, the password,
Yes.
The password thing. Now, password is a big thing, right? All applications in an organization. And let me talk about bank, because I have worked most of my life in bank and financial services. So, bank is considered one of the most secretive, plus one of the most secured places in terms of password management. So what generally we tend to do is there is something called a password policy, and it's a compliance policy, and theoretically this policy is kind of driven by the regulator. So look, let me take a step back. These things haven't happened overnight, right? Computer was invented, people started working in computers, these became personal computers, it became more closer to our life, and then these things started happening, these issues, these breaches. So the government started noticing, the banks started failing, or there were a lot of frauds happening in bank. So then the government stepped in. Most probably it was the United States and the United Kingdom, because they have been driving this across the years. And they said, okay, look, if you're a bank and you're a bank of, let's say you have an asset of whatever, $30 billion, you need to have these policies to secure your consumers or your, the business. So they drove it top down. And then they came to the banks, and the banks also had to go through a similar policy upheaval. So typically in a bank, a password policy would be, you have to have a complex password, as we mentioned. You have to have the password rotated in every 60 days, 90 days. That's the standard ones. That's what we call as a static part of the password management. But then there is a dynamic part also. So somebody who has access to databases, somebody who is doing application support, somebody who's in, is a developer, or somebody who is in production support. So these people, there are incidents that happen, right? Somebody somewhere, there's a outage in the application. So what they will do is they have a special or a privileged access. We call it the privileged access. So they have to log in, using an individual ID and a password. But that password is not what I will create. It's a system generated, automated, unknown password. So you won't be able to see it on your screen. So these are like set up as asterisks or whatever. And your access in that specific time period is valid only when you're working. So for example, I'm working doing that incident response, and I just went out for to the loo, toilet, and the machine has not seen a response going to and fro for 5 minutes. If my password policy says, disconnect the connection, it will. So you will have to reset it again. So these are good things that has happened in the bank and in institutions like this. So they security controls are in place. Plus,
sometimes this biometric also come into
of course,
place.
Biometric is more like a second factor authentication or a third factor authentication, which I'll just touch upon. Yeah. But in terms of password, so that's one. The other thing that the banks have done, large organizations, I'm sure non-banks have also done, is something called a single sign-on. So single sign-on is typically when you part of your business, you are expected to work in using 10 applications on a daily basis, not as an exceptional, right? On a daily basis. So what the organization or the cyber team will do is they will set up an entry point. So you have one user ID and you have one password, which helps you to log in essentially to all these 10 applications. At any point in time, you are logged in to the banking system. So that is an efficient way of managing passwords, right? And also an efficient way of productivity. So otherwise you have to remember 10 passwords, 20 passwords, and you have to log in, keep on logging it. But obviously, as I said, if there are certain exceptional cases, like you're in production support and you have to do certain privileged access, that's a different one. Yeah.
Okay. So as you rightly mentioned about this password, and sometimes this bank's email come, sometimes little bit of information come from the news also, there's this fraud, that fraud is going, etc. In your experience, what is the weird or very surprised kind of threat you come across? Which maybe seems very normal, seems very non-toxic, but actually have tremendous venom in it.
See, there is something. You are aware of the phishing scams, right? Phishing that happens. So phishing is essentially, I as an attacking person or an attack vector, I will try to send some links or some sort of quasi-trusted information to you, and you either because of non-awareness or that it's coming from a semi-trusted party, you will probably click on that link and provide some information, right? Probably your bank account number or your credit card number or whatever.
No, just wait here. So two things. Okay, please explain a little bit more. One is getting those things, okay? Yeah. So phishing, we understand. So sometimes we get it from tax officers,
yep.
Sometimes we get it from government, sometimes we get it from, medical center or whatever. First is getting those. Without understanding, maybe I click it.
Yeah.
So getting those, is there any threat? Clicking, is there any threat? And lastly, definitely when I'm giving some information on it, definitely I can understand the threat. But before that, these two steps.
So first of all, you'll have to understand how these information, these organizations or these attacking vectors, how did they get this information? So you must have supplied your personal information, your credentials to XYZ. Okay. For whatever reasons, technically, any third party who gets access to your data is supposed to anonymize your data before running any data analytics or any insights on them. But obviously not everybody has a good intent. Some of them use those information, package it up, and sell it to different people, different organizations for different reasons. What happens, and this is what is happening, is this information has come into the hands of bad actors. So they will masquerade themselves as ATO. Okay, so that's how they have got that information, and ATO, masquerading as ATO, they will send some SMS, for example, to yourself. Now, if you see it's an ATO, the first thing is
ATO
it's come
is
from
Australian Tax Office.
Tax Office. So, there's something that I have to do. So the first reaction in this case is click on that. Okay. Now, unless you are really aware or you have been in this space, you would not look at the actual URL or the name of the the where it's coming from. So you will, most of the cases you will see it's ATO something dash something, or that's where it's fake, right? Now the moment you click it, there could be different ways in which it can be your computer or your mobile can be then breached, right? So it can help you to download some Trojans or some malicious codes, and then if you are really unlucky, then there would be people who are in close proximity of your mobile Wi-Fi who can actually use that Wi-Fi to log into your account and do whatever they can. It's not that simple to do though. but that's how it's being done. So that's the probably answers your second question. Right?
So that means receiving those SMS or receiving those email, it's okay. I mean, because you don't know.
It's not okay, unless
so
you know that this is a malicious or harmful
yeah.
email.
I mean, if I didn't click or anything, just received. Okay, I realized it's a spam one.
Yeah.
Either delete it or whatever. Until that point, probably it's okay. The moment I click it, problem starts from there.
Correct. But now the even the service providers for telephone or mobile or whatever, they have a spam alert, they have a spam and blocking alert, and they also have a reporting alert. So if you're still unaware, I think you need to go to that 3 dots and say this is spam and report and block it. So at least you're sure that you won't get the information from the same number or from the same email address. Or
right. So that means it's better, like, if we understand this is not a right thing, and I'm especially telling for the elderly people also, so it's better to either block it or delete it or whatever. Don't click. Okay. The moment you feel there is something not right, don't act on it.
exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
Now, let's say a real ATO, Australian Tax Office SMS came and you block it. What happens then?
So you block it.
Yeah.
Right. What happens is they will. Okay. So what is the specific message? It is either asking you to pay your taxes, or it's giving you some important information, or
Yeah.
So the only thing that will happen is you won't be able to, those services can't be rendered.
Exactly.
Right. And then if you're overdue, they will give you a call.
Okay.
Or they will send you
an email also,
an
maybe.
email also, or maybe a post mail, depending on how the services are set up. And they will take necessary actions.
This is good. So that means, like, if by accident you block that number, don't worry about too much, as long as that organization is
Correct.
like a proper trusted organization. They will also find a way to help you out,
Exactly. Yeah.
either through email or by post, or someone called you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you look at a real ATO SMS or a real ATO email, you will see it always ends with a gov.au
Right.
or similar. It cannot be a gov-in.au or a gov-in/something au, not like that. It has to be a specific URL, and it will end with that URL extension. And if you see that for a bank, for financial institutions, for tax authorities, for any Victorian government or any such government, if you are unsure, go to that website, to that government website, Victoria Roads, find out what that URL is, the main URL, right? vicroads.gov.au. So anything that vicroad.gov.au is rightfully the right URL.
Right. So any communication from that particular web will be legitimate.
Correct.
Rest all. So basically, if you cannot understand anything, don't act on it.
Exactly.
That's the basic
True.
message. Okay. All right. As we are talking, so that means this email, this SMS, sometimes phone calls maybe, because call centers kind of that prime gone down of like selling, cold calling and all these things, but these spammer and callers are actually doing a lot of things from there. These things are definitely, organizations or government are awareing people about it. People also got a little bit of awareness around it, but still people get caught into it, and those actors are basically coming up with new strategies every time. So to do that, again, if you not sure what to do, don't act on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
If a phone call came, not sure whether to answer it or not, doesn't matter. They are saved from calling from a police or from government. Just don't reply. Shut down.
Exactly.
Like disconnect. Because if it is legitimate, they will find a way to come to you to inform you.
Exactly. And you always see when they call you and from scammers, the questions they have is extremely personal, right? They will ask you, can you share your bank number in a different way? It may not be in these 4 words, but they will ask you for your bank number. They will ask you for your date of birth. They will ask you for your credit card number. Okay. So I have also received those calls. And the first thing I will ask is, where are you calling from? They will say, I'm calling from this organization. I said, fine. What's your employee ID number? Because it's a call that has come from them. I have not called them, right? So they will, now if you ask this kind of aggressive questions, they will take a step back and say, why do you need my employee ID number? And then you say, I don't trust the call. If you're really calling from ATO, I need to know you're not scamming me or spamming me. Okay. If they are right, they will provide the employee ID number, and you will say, thank you for that. I will verify it, and you give me a call back tomorrow. Okay. People never call back. So they obviously are giving a false identity and trying to get something. But again, you will know if really someone from ATO calls, they will ask certain informations which are not personal, but it is required for the business. So you will know the difference. Yeah.
One strategy I kind of applied to my kids is, because they also start getting calls as long as they are using any mobile. If you don't understand, one simple answer, I will talk to my parents and get back to you. And one of my friends actually, he is looking after his old parents in other country. So, and he actually said that the best answer is, if they are not getting it, first of all, don't touch any SMS or email or anything. And if they're getting a call, okay, I will talk to my son or daughter or whatever and get back to you. What is your phone number? Simple. Just don't allow them to talk through you. Don't get like fear, lust, greed, and like trap you into it.
Exactly. And that is one of the big scams that's around, right? So
and it's keep on going.
It will keep on, because it's a human nature, right? We always want to get something windfall profit. Somebody is offering, iPhone 16 at $100.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Or somebody is giving you a jackpot, and you can win lotteries.
Yeah.
All these things, it's too good to be true. So when it is too good to be true, it's not true. That we have to know. But again, people psychologically, they think that maybe this one is true, so let's go for it, and that's where the problem happens. There's another thing also, another case, like you have these lonely people who get into these dating websites.
Oh, that's another big thing.
Yeah, dating websites, and there are fake profiles created, beautiful girls or handsome men, and they would never actually come into a video. They will always go through SMS, messengers and all that, and they will build the trust, and over a period of time they will extort money from you. And this has happened in many cases in many countries. In Australia, it's a big thing. It's called honey trapping, so it's a big thing.
Right. And another thing also, recently my kid was actually saying that maybe there is a beef between 2 students, and one girl or a boy, they actually created a fake profile in Instagram and basically invited all those malicious people or whatever, and that cyber threat or that social humiliation attached to it, it's basically really detrimental.
Yeah, I mean that's a big topic that you touched upon. It's called cyberbullying.
Yes.
And that's extremely prevalent.
This also comes under cybersecurity space, right?
It does, but it's more a social stigma than a typical cybersecurity. Right. Because cybersecurity is actions and their remedies, right? You have a threat and you nullify the threat. But cyberbullying, especially among younger people like 10, 12, 15 teens, essentially teens, this happens because they want to be in a peer group. They want to emulate the peers. They don't want to be left out. Plus primarily that reasons, and in school there is a lot of these things happening among the younger generation. One of the things Australia has done is last month,
I will come to that. I mean, that's a very good step. What do you say on that?
Yeah, it's a great thing. I mean, we don't know how much it will be successful or not, but see, as I said at the beginning, right?
Can you please explain a little bit on it?
I will come to that, because this comes under the whole umbrella of cyberbullying, and in fact I wanted to touch upon that as well, because there are a lot of kids who who may see this.
Yeah, it is like.
So, look, cyberbullying is something that has come up for the last 5-6 years, maybe a little longer, but this has taken its wings in the last few years. Essentially, the explosion of the social media and younger generations, the teens, using Snapchat and Twitter and Insta, without any restraint. Why this has happened? Because it helps you to create accounts anonymously, right? So I can create an avatar of myself. Now, when the social media companies started this, they did it with a good intent. They didn't think that this will translate into something nefarious, but that's what has happened. So you anonymize, you create an avatar of yourself, you give yourself a different name. You can, if you're a female, you can call yourself male, and vice versa. So nobody knows really who you are. And then I don't like you. Okay, I will send some sort of hate on that social media, and I have a group of 20 friends. I'll send it to them. Now, because I have a network of 20, it gets a network effect. So it gets spread very fast. Now those 20 people will talk to another 20, so it becomes 400, and that's why it multiplies, right? Now I feel humiliated, because maybe it was just a small issue with you, but now 400 people are looking at me and they're laughing at me and giving different emojis. So psychologically I get tarnished, and it has happened in Australia and rest of the world. There have been multiple self-harm that has happened.
Yes.
Young people who have taken their lives because
sometimes their parents took their life.
Yep.
Because they can't handle the humiliation.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I think that's a big issue with Australia today, and rest of the world. And why Australia has, and even not the younger generation, it has gone to the adults, the hate crime, humiliation, and they also get scarred for life. I mean, usage of images, bad images, nude images, deepfake. People use deepfakes. I don't like you, I'll use deepfake to create an image and send it out there. There's no one or no way you cannot undo that. Unless somebody takes it down.
Yeah,
right?
and once it's there, as long as that organization, that big organization, is not taking it down, it is there.
It is there
all the time.
It is there. And how many or where will you go and say, this is not me, or I have not done that?
Yeah.
You can't really do that.
No.
If it's there in the internet, means it's the truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know whether you've heard about Sam Kerr, our the footballer. She went through a big hate crime. Sorry, not a hate crime, but a hate after the World Cup, just because she said something on the internet that got tweaked, and people started saying a lot of bad things. And there are other cases that has happened with the adults. So that's one thing. The other is gender inequality, right? So if you're a not a male or a female. Okay, if you're something
like the
else,
LGBT community,
LGBT community, they get hate speeches and hate
yes.
crimes a lot.
Yes.
Right? And there's no way to stop it at this point in time.
Yeah.
But there are ways, which I'll come soon, but no way to stop it at this point in time. Then there are geopolitical instabilities, things arising out of like the Gaza conflict, the Ukraine war. So anybody who is a Russian in Australia, even if they are Australians, but they're originally Russians, they get hate speeches, right? Or Palestinians. Again, I'm not supporting any one of them. It's just this is the way of the internet. Yeah. So Virat Kohli, like yesterday, have you seen the kind of the kind of
heat?
Yeah, he received, and
Yeah.
it's going on in
Yes.
Insta. I don't think that's a
it's
good
too
thing.
much.
To,
I mean,
yeah.
like people also don't know where to stop.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
and rather I should say these systems don't know where to stop or how to stop.
Exactly.
Okay, so that means what you were saying is this cyberbullying, which is a very big issue,
Yeah.
a psychological issue, a social issue, it's pretty much comes down to at least till date in individual hand. I mean, as an organization, or there is, I mean, yeah, if things go out of hand, you can definitely go to police. If things go out of hand, then
See,
you can ask for help, but at the end of predominantly it's still in our hand.
it's actually not. You think so, but it's actually not. If
Okay.
something is there in Snapchat or in Insta, and it's a humiliatory remark about you or a bad image, okay, a deep fake image, you cannot in any way go and take it down, right? So what happens is, what has happened over the last few years, the ramifications have been pretty bad. So the Australian government is one of the government in the forefront who has taken real cognizance of this problem, and in fact that Australia is on the forefront of taking steps to fix this. Is what US is looking at Australia now, UK is looking at Australia now, and this the law that got passed in last month is a testament to what Australia has done, right? So what has happened is 2021 Australia created the Online Safety Act, okay, and they established the office of the E-Safety Commissioner. So, and they created all these policies. They created all the standards of how online social media, online cyber reporting can happen, how transparency will work, what happens if these kind of cyberbullying incidents are there, what will the social media do. So they actually tried to actually put the responsibility and the onus on the social media companies, right? And it obviously, social media company, they are not country bound, nation bound, so they came back, fought back. But however, looking at the number of incidents that have happened and the number of fatalities that have happened, they have also started, and there are a lot of different governments have started putting pressure on these. So United States, definitely, UK, India, Australia, France,
So
and
that means like from everywhere a collaborative effort, which is also necessary.
Exactly.
It's coming into coming into play.
Exactly. GDPR, which is a European law to govern data, that has been amended to include bullying data. So if there has to be checks and balances in the system to see how much bullying data is and how the organizations are managing that data. So if you want to have your business in a GDPR country, like Insta is in France, so Insta has to make sure that they have sufficient controls so that bullying is not applicable or bullying is minimized on their platform, right? Same with Australia. So that e-safety, the commissioner's office, is very creative and they are very enforceable in running these laws.
And at least like in Australia for my kids, there are some definitely very good awareness program.
Yeah.
Also, I have come across.
So that is all coming out of that E-Safety Commissioner's office. So they have sat down with these individual organizations, these large social media companies, and they said, you guys need to provide transparency reports. You guys need to tell us, how many. First of all, are you able to moderate the information that's there? If you're not able to moderate, then are you using AI to moderate? How much human intervention is there, right? If there is more human intervention, they're asking them to bring in technology to curate the data, use that data to actually see. Because see, at the end of the day, there are words that are very easy to moderate and remove. But there are a lot of words, tonalities, way you speak, okay, emojis, which may or may not be picked up by a AI bot or a classifier, right? What happens then? But person or the group who is sending those hates, they know what it means. So those are called the innuendos or supplements. Okay, the more dialect you bring into your data, your information system, the more capability the AI system develops. These will be picked up.
Right.
So that's a big thing. AI moderation, human intervention, then transparency report I mentioned. Then there is obviously the reporting. So they have to send reports every month that these are how many instances of hate that we have received and we have acted upon. And then one of the other things that they have done is 24-hour redressal. So if you are, if somebody reports on Insta, for example, that this is a word that has been used against me and I feel mentally, they are bound. They need to start that investigation, and if they find it culpable enough, they need to take it down within 24 hours. Otherwise, they might get fined. So it's no longer a civil only. It could also turn it into a criminal case. And they get fined $500,000 to $1 million, depending on the gravity of the case. Yeah. So that has happened. Then the other thing that is also going on is awareness. There's a lot of these mental health programs that the social media organizations have started, collaborating with the government, with individual think tanks, with smaller mental health facilities. So that's a big thing that they're doing. So quicker turnaround. Like if I say I'm not feeling well because I have been mentally harmed, so there are policies and procedures that these companies are working on that can be immediately used and immediately resourced. Yeah. Plus there are other, as you said, your daughter, through the school, through the, there are programs that the governments are asking the schools to run. That definitely is going to help. But at the end of the day, these are all reactive. These are all things.
Yeah, true. These are not proactive.
These cannot be proactive because you will think of something and there's a new technology coming in. You don't know how to handle that. Look at augmented realities, extreme realities. You wear the Apple Quest or thing, and you are in your virtual world, right? And again, you are not who you are. So there is always a possibility that those get invaded. There is data breach. Somebody says something to you and you are part of a group. If you don't want to play in the group, then you're out. For some time, some reasons, you will still want to continue with that. And you're not going to tell your parents that, I'm getting this kind of, humiliations, right? So that's emerging technology. We don't know how to handle those at this point in time.
As you mentioned AI, let's say, because AI, we don't know how AI will actually change, the whole world. Let's say this phishing thing, or let's say, rearranging the password and pinging you or whatever. Let's say all these things are done by AI, okay?
Yeah.
Someone with a bad intention did that. And within the organization, someone with a good intention did to fight with that.
Mhm.
So it's basically coming to that stage where human are not involved. It's like AI system is fighting or searching for another AI system. How far we are from there, or it's already there?
Look, it's already there, but I think, and this is my own personal opinion, in order to invade somewhere, in order to use AI such extensively, you need huge computational resources, right? And that's not possible, with 3, 4, 5, 10 computers. You need large clusters, probably, huge data centers. Now, first of all, you have to see the benefit that an organization gets running the AI in their ecosystem to do business. What is the benefit the other side will get? Okay. Is there more benefit if they use their AI to try to, brute force into this system, the bank system? And as of now, it is not there. So that's one of the big limitations today. The bad AI taking over. Right?
Yeah, that AI piece no one knows yet at this stage, or at least like a normal population, they don't know where it will end. So okay, so that means cybersecurity wise, what we totally can understand is everybody is actually addressing and working towards it, from government to agencies to businesses, and little bit of awareness and information as an individual we also keep at it to make our life safer.
Correct.
Is there anything you want to add more, or anything we are missing?
I think we need to be, people have a tendency to believe that if I do certain thing, my system is secured. So there's nothing more to do. But this is a continual process. People are getting smarter. So the person sitting on the opposite side is probably smarter than me at this point in time. So if I have set up my password, he is trying to figure out how to get into my system, right? So we need to ensure that we have, a good password manager. We use multi-factor authentication, and definitely we should not be contented with an antivirus and anti-malware.
Okay, here I have a question. Like my personal experience, okay, my laptop is an enterprise something, so it comes with some antivirus, okay, and because of like I'm in a business world, so I have a Norton, virus as well, antivirus as well. So they act not simultaneously, but one or the other, and something like that in my laptop. Okay, but all other antivirus companies, some like I'm trying to do something and then start pinging this virus is like attacking, download this. Sometimes it's getting really, really annoying. And last time I had to basically call off one of my friends, and he's a network guy, and he actually fixed my laptop. So I understand technology. Another of my friend also technology, so he came and helped me. There are a lot of people who just use laptop for their like basic email and reading and all. They have no understand of all these things. What they do, same thing, just don't act upon it, or?
I think it's a very good question. You have to be aware a little bit. The responsibility also lies on you. You can't say I use it but I don't know. I understand there's a group who are older. But then there has to be family help. They need to secure the system. And anti-malware, antivirus is just one of them. But as I said, managing the password, you need to do that. You need to change the passwords if you can, do that. Keep a copy of whatever you're doing in a separate, could be in a flash drive, could be in another disk. Keep that. So even if your system, goes down, I'm not saying it's getting hacked, but you lose your system, something happens, you can still recover a lot of things.
In some cases, let's say a government website, for example, okay, you fix a password and they don't ask you to change.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you need to change it?
I would suggest yes.
Maybe once a year or something like that. Don't just keep it like that way. Okay.
You should change your password not only for government websites, for your Facebooks and Instas and Snapchats. You should keep on changing them probably every 6 months. Don't keep the same password because, as I said, someone somewhere in the world is trying to still, hack into your system. And accidentally, if it does, then you are the one who is going to lose. So it's your responsibility to do that.
Okay. We are almost the end of the conversation. I heard these stories, and there is a film also came. What's the name? The guy who was the whistleblower against this social media stuff, that organizations can hack your mobile camera and mobile audio. So if you are discussing something, automatically it gets picked and search engine is actually flushing those information to you. Those things are like at one point of time a big talk. Now it's kind of hush hush. Is there a bigger problems came, that's why it's hush hush, or that is kind of taken care of already, or it's still there, even bigger way?
Look, I really don't know. I mean, if it's a Hollywood movie, then probably it's not. But see, the intelligence is there, okay, and if
possibility is also there.
Possibility is there. So if somebody wants to, again, this is for good and bad, right? If
yes,
organizations, governments want to manage and control terrorism, they need to know who they are, right? But again, if it is at a blanket level, I can go into everybody's phone or mobile and laptop. That's obviously not ethical.
No. Yeah.
So an example is like if you heard about Fitbit, about 2020, during the COVID or just before the COVID, there's this American intelligence guy who was doing his run in a remote island somewhere closer to US, and he had his Fitbit on, location on, and the entire thing was picked up by someone and put it on social media. So that data was captured and put it on social media. So that's the kind of things that can happen. But again, these are targeted atrocities, I would say. Yeah. It won't happen to you, because the amount of data and the amount of effort is required, and the resource and infrastructure that is required to handle this, exfiltrate that data and then use that data and then publish is also not small. So
right, okay.
So these can happen.
Right, okay. So on that, so we can end this podcast.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. And as you know, if you really want to recharge your energy, live life in your own terms, this is the right place for you. This is URL Podcast. I'm Gautam Boshak. Okay.
Thank you, Gautam.